Global governance cannot be limited to the crafting of instruments related to the promotion of democracy. A key component must be the creation of fair and equitable rules to enhance the development prospect of developing countries. In other words, the global governance is the balance of equitable rules and the promotion of democracy. Good day, everyone. We are reporters of Global Governance in Geography 3. Listen carefully to the discussion and do not hesitate to share your thoughts. The following are the objectives of this lesson. A. Justify how global governance helps in revitalizing urbanization in the world. S. Solve the challenges of global governance. K. Define the concept related to global governance. Global governance or world governance is a campaign towards the unification of multinational actors that seeks on negotiating answers to the problems that have an effect on more than one state or region. Its intention is to give global public goods, specifically on peace and security, justice and mediation systems for conflict, functioning markets, and joint standards for commerce and industry. Global governance is important because the problem and the opportunities that are experienced globally by mankind keep on increasing. Global governance permits us to end warfares and solve these problems, allowing us to deal with the latest and emerging ones. Some of the problems that can occur in global governance include vested interests of powers among nations. It gives them a very strong reason for acting in a particular way. The central function of the nation-state is that of distributing and rendering accountable powers of governance upwards towards international agencies and to trade blocs like the European Union, and downwards towards regional and other sub-national agencies of economic coordination and regulations. The nation-state in a global world is largely a regulatory one as the chief factor in global independence. The four key attributes of global system. First, countries or states are independent and govern themselves. It is a system in which the citizens of a country or a smaller political unit, such as a state, rule themselves and control their own affairs. Self-governments are free from external government control or outside political authority. Second, these countries interact with each other from diplomacy. The main function of diplomacy is to ensure peaceful relations between countries. These might include negotiating trade deals, discussing mutual problems, implementing new policy, and tackling disputes. Third, international organizations facilitate these interactions. Fourth, internal organizations also taking on lives of their own.
Let's continue with the attributes of global system. We have global governance is the political and economic interaction. So this means that countries that are far away from each other and countries that are close to each other, of course in terms of geography, are still bounded by economics and politics. Global governance allows negotiation between countries to solve world problems. This is done through international treaties or signing of international laws between countries. Another thing is that there is no such thing as world government. Even the powerful countries such as China or United States, they cannot be a world government. They cannot impose tax to the world because every state or every country has laws that are only limited to their national boundaries. Now we have global governance is not limited to contract between states, which means that global governance also encompasses transnational and regional levels. For example, the meat from Cebu is then exported to Manila and then Manila to abroad. Now the next thing that we have is that global governance is the variable between the relations of anarchy and hierarchy. When we say anarchy, the government is invisible. But when we say hierarchy, there is a degree of institutionalism. So what does this mean? It means that global governance can function with anarchy, with hierarchy, or both. Finally, it purposely control or influence someone else. So let's say, for example, importing, exporting, traveling, we are always influenced by global governance. Even the simplest activities that we do are being regulated by global governance. Now let us proceed with the arenas of global governance. We have first, peace and security. So this refers to the mitigation responses of United Nations and other regional organizations. So let me ask you this question. Do you think that the efforts of United Nations to respond to peace and security is effective? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. We also have environment and sustainable development. So global governance aims to respond or to give solutions to environmental problems such as climate change, and they also have sustainable development goals. We also have global economy or economic governance among public, regional, national, and global actors. One of the events that influenced our global economy was that of the war between Ukraine and Russia, in which trade is being disrupted, resulting into inflation. Then we also have global justice and education. In global justice, these are the decisions that is done across borders to protect humanity and serve justice. In education, this refers to the global shift of managing educational institutions. This also means the changing study habits of students and their learning environments.
Primary institution of global governance.
United Nations is an intergovernmental organization whose stated purposes are to maintain international peace, so the work of the United Nations touches every corner of the globe and focuses on a broad range of fundamental issues like sustainable development, protection of the environment and refugees, disaster relief and mitigation, counterterrorism, as well as disarmament and non-proliferation. So next we have the World Trade Organization. Is an intergovernmental organization that regulates and facilitates international trade. So for example, we have support the needs of developing countries.
And also we have 10 benefits of the World Trade Organization. First, we have the system helps promote peace, disputes and handled constructively, rules make life easier for all, freer trade cuts the cost of living, it provides more choice of products and quality. Trade stimulates economic growth. The basic principle make life more efficient. Governments are shielded from lobbying. And lastly, the system encourage good government.
So the World Bank is an international organization that provides financing, advice, and research to developing nations to help advance their economies. By providing information, analysis, and financial assistance, and by liaising to speak people in other organizations in order to work with them or with the donors. So the World Bank provides
long-term economic development and poverty reduction by providing technical and financial support to help countries implement reforms or projects such as building schools, providing water and electricity, fighting disease, and protecting the environment. So, these are the World Bank areas of focus. First, we have the poorest countries, the middle income countries, post conflict and fragile states, the Arab world, global public goods, and also knowledge and learning.
Now, let us move on to actors of global governance. So, actors of global governance include international organization. So, international organization are the actors in their own rights. So, it is one that includes members from more than one nation. So, and an international organization, it is very important because it serves many diverse functions, including the collecting information and monitoring trends. The World Meteorological Organization. First of all, one should keep in mind that international organizations have been created upon the agreement of the sovereign state. So, as such, there is not to punish or impose anything on those states which have become members of any international organization. So, their mutually agreed understanding is that they should comply with rules and agreements usually impressed in articles, so and assumes their responsibilities in following or breaking the agreements, so does not by any means attempts against the sovereignty of any states. So that's the international organization. Next is the international beneficiaries. So it create, channel, and disseminate knowledge. So the coordination functions of international beneficiaries can also be a source of influence. International beneficiaries are often tasked with maintaining contacts, both governmental and non-governmental, which enables them to identify and involves actors that they consider relevant. One of the example of beneficiaries organization is the government. So, the four key characteristics of beneficiary are clear hierarchy, specialization, and division labor, and a set of formal rules or standard operating produce. A typically government beneficiaries is a primary functions are to help the government run smoothly, as what I have said earlier, and it implements the laws and policies made by the elected official. So that is the role of the government in bureaucratic organization. Next is the international non-governmental organization. So an international non-governmental organization, or the NGO, is an organization which is dependent of government involvement and extends the concepts of a non-governmental organization to an international scope. So there are some examples of an international organization. So an example is the Red Cross, the Red Crescent Societies, the Oxfam International, the CARE or the CARE, and the Save for of the Children. So that is an example of an international organization, international non-governmental organization. As you all know that Child Hope is one of the prominent NGO in the Philippines, of the health that focuses on the children's needs. So we at the Child Hope at the Child Hope Philippines promotes children's welfare, especially those who do not have place they can call a home. So we can see the needs and the safeguard of the rights of the individuals or the children's. So thus, they conduct different health programs. They help improve the quality of life of the children. Now let's proceed to the business actor. So what is business actor? A business actor is defined as an entity that performs behavior in an organization such as business process or functions. Typically, a business actor performs that behavior assigned to one or more business roles. So there are some examples of a business actor. First is the customer, the suppliers, the partners, the informational suppliers, the local authorities, the employees. Next is the migrant. So migrant, while there are no formal legal definition of an international migrant, most experts agree that an international migrant is someone who changes his or her countries for usual residency or residence. So, irrespective of the reason for the migration of a legal status. So, an example, migrants can be defined by foreigner birth, by foreigner citizenship, or by their own movements into a new country to stay temporarily. Sometimes for as little as 1 month, or the settle of a long term.
Examples of challenges of global governance. First is the COVID-19. We all know that one of the major factors why the coronavirus is easily transmitted or spread all over the world because of the globalization and migration of people which is moving from one country to another country. And by means of that, the disseminating of the COVID-19 is easily been spread all over the world. That's why the World Health Organizations in the US and the United Nations is considered about this one. So this is one of the major challenges of the global governance facing right now. Next is the genocide of Rohingya tribes. This is way back in 2016 in Myanmar, which is there are 36,000 people were being killed by the military of Myanmar and 16,000 people has been beaten up, gipang kulata, gipang violate, and they didn't treat them right. So this is included in the human rights which is caught by the attention again of the United Nations and the human rights in the United Nations. Next is the sovereignty crisis. We are already experiencing right now the Chinese aggression in the South China Sea or the West Philippine Sea, considered with the Philippines since we are still claiming it, and it is very big threat still for the world war. It can be resolved to the worldwide a massive war because there's a lot of countries disagree to the excessive and extreme movements of the Chinese government in conquering different sovereignty of the water. So it's still being trapped and a challenge for a global governance, especially in the UN and the different agency of the global governance. Next is malnutrition. It is very prone to everyone that the third world country and the fourth world countries is experiencing malnutrition, and it can cause death or lost lives of young people because of malnutrition. And the World Health Organization is very concerned about this one because it must not be happening, but still very great challenge for the different agencies of the global governance about this malnutrition. For example, in Africa, so there's a huge malnutrition happening there, and almost eradicate people because of different diseases due to malnutrition, lack of immune system. Lastly is that terrorism, unlawful law, or use of threat or violence. Going back in 2010, it was started that terrorism and it is still happening right now. It is a big threat for the social safety and to the world security because the ancestors is very rude, very aggressive in conquering different cities to express their stand in the society. But it is still a very big threat. That's why it's considered as a global challenges for the global governance.